I also have our friend here, Brian Brinkley, joining us once again here. Brian, what did you make of the win and being able, like Patrick said, to be able to bounce back after the Texas game? Because not only was it a loss in the first loss of the year, but also the offense did not look great as far as on the scoreboard. What did you make of the performance and how they were able to make their way back into the win column?
I think that's exactly what Oklahoma needed. I could tell that Brent Venables was very pleased with how that game turned out. His opening statement after the game Saturday was over 5 minutes long.
Wow.
And he had praise for everything. I know he liked the way the defense played, and this is the first time this year we've really seen the running game do what they need it to do this year, and they did it on the road. That's the second most rushing yards they've had since against a conference team since they've joined the SEC, and the most they've had on the road in an SEC game. So the running game and the way they played defense was very impressive, in a game that they really had to have because their final 5 games of the season are all against teams that are right now in the top 20.
Right. We'll get to the upcoming games here in a second, but specifically with John Mateer, I think the entire nation was watching that hand, the way it would perform in the Red River Rivalry game, and then the way it would bounce back 7 days later. What did you make of his performance and just some of the ways that he's continuing to bounce back from a health perspective?
I think part of this was a conscious thing on the part of the offensive coaches to not have him throw a lot, and that's where the running game came through big time, because I think they realized in the Texas game that hand isn't really 100% probably.
Yeah.
So he still made some plays and had a touchdown pass. He didn't have a ton of yards, but he managed the game, and I think they're maybe trying to nurse this throwing hand back to health a little bit. But he, again, Brent Venables had a lot of great things to say about Mateer. He said he's one of the greatest leaders he's ever seen,
wow,
adult or college student athlete that he's used to coaching throughout the years. So I think they kind of managed the game. They put it in the hands of Torrey Blaylock and Xavier Robinson and say, all right, guys, let's control the ball, move the ball, and not have to throw it all the time, and it worked like a charm.
Yeah, I think people are now saying Jaden not who, because at the beginning of the season, everybody was, wondering if, how this transfer would fit in and be one of the best players in college football, and especially in the SEC. And Torrey Blaylock, and like you mentioned, both Blaylock and Robertson have both kind of taken that charge going into this middle part, to the back part of the season. What do you make of what Torrey's been able to do in light of what the expectations were preseason?
It's impressive, and both Ben Arbuckle and Venables have talked about Blaylock is getting them playing time, not just because of how he runs the ball, but everything else that he does, blocking and doing a lot of things that true freshmen normally don't do. He's doing that.
Right.
And it's been really surprising, I think, for a lot of us who thought going into the year we'd see a ton of Jaden Ott and he'd be successful, and he just isn't playing very much. And right now, Blaylock seems to be getting better and better, and now Xavier Robinson starting to contribute. I'm not sure we're going to see a lot of Ott the rest of the way, which is shocking to think about compared to where we were in August on this topic.
Yeah, and obviously like an embarrassment of riches there in the background, in the backfield, and in the running back room specifically with this football team. We got a chance to hear from Oklahoma head coach Brent Venables on this team continuing to make improvements.
Yeah, it's our players. Our players made the decision. Here we are again. Get used to it. This is, college football, and, we watched, again, I think I talked to you guys about it, can't remember for sure, but just watching Georgia 14-play drive, what does it look like? What does winning ugly look like? But just winning, what does it look like? There's good and there's bad. There's penalties, there's big plays, there's execution. It goes back and forth, and you gotta get yours more than you got. We watched a little video on that, but that's the game of football, and it's certainly, again, this conference. But it says a lot again about their ability to respond and punch back, keep striking, and what I've said, and when you don't win a week ago, it doesn't really resonate with anybody, and I get that. But we have been incrementally improving.
It's really interesting here as we go into this next week, Brian, because you mentioned how the gauntlet of the schedule moving forward for Ole Miss that comes into Norman this week. It's own carbon copy of what Oklahoma was a week ago. Now the Rebels are looking to bounce back and get a big win of their own. What do you make of this matchup here in Norman as Lane Kiffin and company come to town?
It's going to be fascinating. You got a really good Ole Miss offense and a really good Oklahoma defense. And I listened to the things that Lane Kiffin said today at his news conference. This will be the third time, I believe, that Venables has matched up with Kiffin. And Kiffin's gotten the better of him twice. One was the OU USC Orange Bowl national title game at the end of the 04 season when Lane was at USC. And then 2015 national title game, Brent at Clemson and Lane at Alabama. But Lane had a lot of great things to say about the Oklahoma defense. And I've heard this from just about every coach Oklahoma's played this year because of how many different things Oklahoma does defensively. They are really difficult to prepare for. And they have rotated. I was talking with my coworker Holden Kruzmark earlier. There's really no one here that's on the defensive side that looks like they're an All-America candidate because they shuffle in so many different players, especially in the front seven. But they're all really good.
Yeah.
And they play so well together as a team. This is going to be a fascinating matchup, especially when Ole Miss has the ball and OU's on defense. So maybe the key is going to be on the other side. You know, what's it going to be like when OU's offense is facing Ole Miss's defense? Maybe that's going to be what determines the game, because we might get a kind of a, you know, I don't know what the word is, a tie basically between the Ole Miss offense and the OU defense.
Yeah, those two units can be almost a wash of one another. Do you expect this defense, this Oklahoma defense, to be able to handle whatever wrinkles that Lane Kiffin has? Because it feels like in these kind of bigger games, he's going to want to throw something new that maybe that Coach Venables and the defensive staff have not seen yet. What do you think their readiness is for this week's matchup against like you said, a high IQ offensive coach?
Oh, I think it's going to be interesting, because I think, you know, Lane knows what Brent does, and Brent knows what Lane does. And like I said, they faced each other twice. I don't know how much they've changed how they view things and their philosophies, and it's been a while for both of those last two matchups. But it's a really good thing for Oklahoma. This is at home. That's a big help, an 11 a.m. kickoff. But OU is really, I mean, even the Texas game, Texas didn't do a whole lot. They scored one offensive touchdown in the game.
Right.
And this OU defense is at the top or in the top 5 in just about every major category. I think OU goes in with a lot of confidence of being able to stop Ole Miss, but Ole Miss has some really good weapons on that side of the football. It's not going to be easy for sure, but it'll be interesting to see how they attack each other. And that's the thing Lane Kiffin said today, is that OU attacks. Brent has an attack-type philosophy on defense, which you mostly see from offensive coordinators.
Right.
But Brent does that on the defensive side of the ball.
No question. You talked about the road ahead. It is not easy for those that don't know the schedule. It's number 8, Ole Miss, number 17, Tennessee, number 4, Alabama, number 15, Missouri. And then, of course, closing it out with LSU, who's ranked number 20 right now. As you take a look holistically at this schedule, we talked about this with Vanderbilt just moments ago, just the gauntlet overall. Where do you think this team stands mentally, knowing the grind that is ahead over the next month or so?
I tell you, it's going to be tough. There's no doubt. It helps that this is the second go-around for Oklahoma in the SEC, and that they've played, you know, it's essentially the same schedule, just at different sites. So that helps. But this is truly one of those coach speak, take it one week at a time, because you can't afford to look past anybody. And all 5 of these games are going to be difficult. And, you know, if Ole Miss wins this game, they're in really good shape to make the college football playoff. If OU wins, it's great. That's wonderful. But they still have 4 brutal games to go. They're not quite as close to making the playoffs. So it's truly 1 week at a time. You're going to have to focus all your energies on Ole Miss for this week.
Absolutely. Stepping away from football really quick, you got a big basketball team that's there, won a world championship back early parts of the summer. What do you make of this Thunder team as we go into yet another season? This is a weird stage in the NBA where there is not a supreme power. There's not some dominant team right now, but it looks like all the evidence points to Oklahoma City might be that team. We might be on the cusp of that.
Yeah, I was thinking that last year, going into the playoffs, there wasn't really, you know, one of those Showtime Lakers or the Celtics teams or the Bulls teams or whatever. standing in their way, which helped them, and they still had to go to 7 games to beat the Pacers. But you're right. It's right now it's the Thunder. They're the overwhelming favorite to win the NBA title. Jalen Williams probably isn't going to start the season as he continues to recover from his wrist surgery. But other than that, they're essentially healthy with their main core. They didn't play a whole lot of them during the preseason.
Right.
I don't think Mark Daigneault is really worried about that. It's a long season anyway, but they go in relatively healthy. I think they're going to need to stay that way, which they were relatively healthy last year other than Chet Holmgren's early season injury. But once he came back, they were mostly healthy for most of the season, and that was a big reason why they won it all. Absolutely. And I think they're going to need to do that again this year. And this year is going to be tougher just because people are going to have, the Thunder are going to have a target on their back, and then just the human nature of, can you get yourself motivated to do this all over again? That's the challenge for any pro team to repeat.
Yep, especially a season as long as the NBA could play 100 games when you consider the playoffs and everything else that's involved. Really fun, really exciting time for you guys over there in Oklahoma City. The Sooners in another top 25 matchup. The banner drops tomorrow for the Thunder. Brian, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.